It's Friday, October the 6th. It's my birthday. Actually, my birthday. We're going to talk about box office. We're going to talk about Kate Winslet and James Cameron reuniting. Bride of Frankenstein, it's on, it's off. What's up with that? Within a week? That's kind of weird. And there's so much more at Meet the Movie Press.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Meet the Movie Press.
Hello, I'm Simon Thompson. Obviously, you might be expecting Jeff to be in this chair. He is unfortunately going to be taking a little bit of personal time. So our thoughts are with Jeff and his family. It's a difficult time, and we appreciate the fact that he will be joining us ad hoc when he can make himself available on the show. In the meantime, I'm going to be filling this chair, and today I'm delighted to have Demetri back again. Hey, Demetri, how you doing?
Hey, how are you, Simon?
I'm very, very good.
Great to be back. Listen, it is an honor to be here. I got to say, we started a little late. It's all on me. I had a little sick doggy, and, he didn't eat my homework, but he just threw up on it. So all my notes for today.
That's still a really good excuse. That's fine.
So
at least it was just
a little bit late.
At least it was just one end and not both. So
anyways, so we're working. I can't wait to talk about when I got the list last night. I was like, I can't talk about that. Can't talk about that. No, it was such an awesome list of so much happened this week.
Yeah.
Well,
one thing I want to address at the top of the show, we are going to be taking calls today. The number is 424-253-0504. Now, there are two topics that we will not be discussing on the show today for legal reasons. One of which is the highly publicized allegations against Harvey Weinstein. And obviously today we know that Andy from Screen Junkies, some allegations have been made against him, which, until proven guilty, we have to assume are allegations. So we will not be discussing either of those issues on the show today. If you do decide to call in, please do not ask about that. That is for legal reasons. Everybody has a right to a legal recourse, so we will not be discussing either of those things on the show today. There is a lot of other stuff to talk about, however.
Awesome.
So, Demetri, apologize.
Yes.
I'm literally, it's my death rattle. It's my birthday, and I'm already almost dead.
Shut up, a death
This
rattle.
is terrible.
You're 25.
I'll take 25. So let's.
Happy birthday.
Thank you so much indeed. I really appreciate that. So let's talk about.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Blade Runner first of all, because
Blade Runner 2049.
I saw it a couple of weeks ago. Jeff and I spoke about it on the show. You saw it last night. So everybody has kind of been losing their shit over this movie. What was your opinion of it?
Listen, first, you have to know that Blade Runner is a movie that's near and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
When it first came out, it got me through college. Literally got me through college, meaning that I wrote three distinct different papers on it for three different classes: a humanities, a science fiction, and a literature class. And again, this is before all the bazillion versions had come out. There was there was the theatrical version. A little bit later, there was the international theatrical version, which had some more violence, right? But still had the overvoice, which I like the overvoice. It makes it a film noir movie, which were some of my theses.
Yeah.
But going into this, I just expected with Denis Villeneuve and the type of director he is, smart choice, I expected more of like deliberately paced, focus on narrative and everything. Yeah. And for me, it delivered. It's the same, but very different. Looks amazing on the big screen. Roger Deakins should get nominated. Special effects. I thought performances were really good. I liked the story line, and this is where it's different. It's the mystery here is a little bit. It's different. What we're hunting for. I don't want to give anything away, but I will say this. Even back, it's been an age-old debate, and I love the debate. I'm on the side of Rick Deckard is human. Always have been.
Okay.
Always have. That's what makes a good science fiction movie. I really enjoyed 2049. People, I think, might take umbrage with the runtime. It's long.
It is. It's 2 hours 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Which is a long time.
It's a long time. It's beautiful. It kept my attention for the full 2 hour 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And when I looked at my watch and I said, that didn't feel 2 hours and 40 minutes. I saw Mother And that mother of
That's
a
a long
movie,
mother.
That felt a hell of a lot longer than watching Blade Runner 2049 for me. I think it's going to be divisive. People will either love it or hate it, but that's the way it was with the very first movie. Everybody hated the first movie.
Absolutely. It was not a big hit when it originally came out. Now, for me, I mean, you talk about the pacing that Denise sort of implicated here. For me, I thought it was the original is very much of a one tone all the way through. For me, the singular tone was a little bit too dry. However, there are some characters that are built into this, especially the female parts, that I found to be particularly captivating. I think of all the parts, the women get the best dialogue, they get the best roles, they get some of the best scenes, and I think some of the best interactions in the entire movie. So for me, even though generally it was obviously it's Ryan and it's Harrison's movie, it's the women who actually kept me watching it. I felt it was overlong. Stunning. You cannot fault the cinematography or the design or even the sound design at all.
The sound design.
It is beautiful.
It is.
I said I interviewed Ryan and Harrison a couple of weeks ago, and I told them that I could literally watch this film on a loop, and I was like, no offense, but without any of the dialogue, because it looks so amazing.
Right.
A couple of wasted characters. I would have liked to have seen more from Dave Bautista. Would have liked to have seen a bit more from him.
Yeah. By any chance, did you catch any of the 3 short films that were made to be sort of kind of prologues?
I
They
have
sort of
not
fill in
as
the
yet,
gap.
but I will be doing that. I'm going to watch it a second time.
Yeah, I highly recommend before going to see 2049,
Yeah.
Blade Runner 2049. They're online. There are 3 of them. One of them, the first one's an anime. It's called Blackout. The second one is about Wallace specifically, where he's going to a board to try to be able to make replicants again. The third one is specifically about Dave Bautista's character.
Okay.
And each one nicely, they're not frivolously done, because they do have their place within that gap between the original and to this one.
Okay.
You'll see a little bit more Dave Bautista, and I have to say something regarding him. He is becoming that actor's actor. Like he's like sort of the real deal.
Yeah.
Meaning that not only can he do action and he's this big guy, but I think from an expressive standpoint, he's good.
Yeah.
And like you do sort of kind of want more of him. But I really noticed it in this short. He has some interaction with a little girl, and I was like, he pulled that off rather flawlessly.
No, he's a
great.
really good actor, and it's kind of. I think some people initially, and I'm probably one of them, were slightly dismissive of him entering the acting game, and then with the last Bond film, Spectre, where he was one of the villains, or certainly a henchman is probably the best description. I felt that he was underused in that. So I think in this, what he does in this film, and no spoilers by the way, is superb.
Yeah.
Is really superb. He was a high point of the movie. I would just like to have seen more of him in the film. Yeah. That was one disappointment. But we're looking at tracking this weekend for 45 to 50 million. We'll get to box office later, but it took 4 million in previews, which is very strong.
Sure.
They've done certainly in the last couple of months. That's sort of it kind of level of,
They've done an amazing job marketing this movie.
Yeah.
Although it is a little bit of a bait and switch because they really have predicated the marketing around action. This isn't a movie that's predicated on action. It's not 2 hours and 40 minutes of nonstop edge of your seat action, although there is good action in it. This is very much like the first one. It's predicated narrative, theme, some symbolism, and about the human it ends up being about the human condition.
Yeah,
which
very
is
much
what
so.
very good science fiction should
And people
be.
were asking me this week, do you need to have seen the first Blade Runner to see this one? I would say no.
Okay.
Because it helps if you have, but the story within this, and again, no spoilers here, because if you give away the story, you give away the entire movie. It is self-contained. It is kind of explained within the movie where the plot line is going, in not a with a trowel kind of level. And then when the MacGuffin is revealed, then it carries through. So I think that you don't need to have seen the first Blade. It helps, but you don't need to have.
Yeah, I would go under, you should familiarize yourself with the universe. And at least with Rick Deckard's character, you should be part of that conversation.
Yeah.
Because for the first one, for me, is very iconic. And what it stood for and what it does. And try to, most people will probably just see the most recent, Ridley Scott's. If you can get a hold of, the one that has the over voice, try that. But you should at least get a sense of Rick Deckard himself and his relationships with other people in the movie, just to see where that character is coming from. That to me would help a little bit. If anything, I think what this movie will do for the people who haven't seen it, they'll go, they're going to go back. And it'll make them appreciate Blade Runner.
Yeah.
And it'll make them appreciate 2049 that much more.
I think that's fair. Probably the biggest problem I had with the movie was, even though the final third of the film is still very impressive, the final third of Blade Runner was theatrical, dramatic, and impactful. And for me, the last third of this film felt a little bit Hollywood, we're going for the 2017 audience, we have to give something which is bang for a buck.
Yeah.
And for me, I think that's, and Denis is someone I'm a great fan of, and I think generally he absolutely nails it. But this, I felt, was a little bit playing to the audience. And I think it's, because it's such an intelligent movie,
Right.
there was something smarter, I think, that could have been done.
This, and again, this is another reason why I would recommend the original Blade Runner.
Yeah.
This movie doesn't have a Roy Batty.
No.
Roy Batty is such a fascinating, interesting character. He's a villain, but to see what our Blade Runner learns from Roy Batty and the other people that he comes across, that to me is what made that a great science fiction thing. So Roy Batty is such a great character, played by Rutger Hauer.
Played brilliantly
this
as well.
This movie didn't have that Roy Batty.
I agree.
So that's where I think that one of the many things that I've been trying to unpack about this movie, and that was one that came up as I was driving here.
Okay.
So I'm glad you brought that up, and I don't disagree, but I still think there was a humanistic component too that I thought, yes, this is about the human condition.
Yeah.
So.
No, I think everything you've said is absolutely right. So on a scale, if we were going like an A or a B rating, I mean, for me, it's a B plus.
Okay.
It's not an A movie.
Okay.
I mean, what would you?
See, I'm just a hair. I'm an A minus.
Okay.
Just you're B
It's
plus,
a very
A-minus,
thin definition.
Very thin line. But I would you agree though that people are gonna go, much like the first one, they're gonna go, oh my god, it was so long and boring and talky.
Yeah.
Do you think people?
I think for me the biggest problem, I mean, we mentioning the box office, 45 to 50, I think that's fair. I don't think it would do, it might do more than that, but I'm not anticipating it because I just don't think that people who are, aside from the fact that it's got Ryan Gosling in it,
right?
So people will go because it's a Ryan Gosling movie. That hasn't always been the case. Plenty of Ryan's movies have not pulled an audience. The buzz outside of the film community is not there for me.
Right.
They like the promotion. They like the idea. They know Blade Runner. I just don't think that this is going to, because of length, because of pace, because of various things, it's going to appeal to that much of a wider audience outside of the audience that it would naturally appeal to. I think this will be the final Blade Runner film we'll see.
Most likely.
I would not expect them to go, this has been such a big hit, we're going to do another one in 5 years. I think this is going to be putting Blade Runner to bed, and I think it's a fine way to do that.
Yeah.
Certainly, looking at the history of sequels, in a history of sequels, this is a bloody good try. It's a really good effort. It's a great result.
Not only that, how many sequels it's been what, 30 years?
Yeah, 27 years? Yeah.
Okay. That usually doesn't work when you're going to do a sequel. No. Usually doesn't. The odds are pretty much stacked against you. This one, they turn the odds around. Again, they did come up with a good story. They hired a very capable director. Who,
Yeah.
I mean, he's coming off of The Arrival.
Beautiful vision.
Right?
Beautiful
And,
vision.
The marketing, like I said, was
Yeah.
so on point that you're right. Ryan Gosling will get some in. Harrison will pull some people in. But I think I don't disagree. Although its only competition is like, what, My Little Pony? So we know that the bronies
Yeah.
are going to be not going to Blade Runner. So,
Maybe they'll do a double bill. I mean, I'm sure that's not what Denis thought of. It was like, I'll tell you what, the best way to see my film is, first of all, you see this, and then you see My Little Pony. My Little Pony, the bronies, they love sci-fi.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was not a meeting
Yeah, no.
that happened at Sony or Warner Brothers.
So,
That was also
On that
a pretty
note-
shit Denis impression.
That's all right.
On we were talking about Dave Bautista. IGN and Screen Rant, according to Zayas B. Lou in the chat, IGN and Screen Rant said the same thing, that he should have had more screen time. So I will watch the shorts this weekend. I absolutely will do.
yeah, and I just was on the phone with Ian Kaiser, who's
Yeah.
a friend, right? And he's a good, he's going to see the movie. And I said, if you have the chance, watch those three. Watch those three shorts. You'll be impressed,
Okay.
and they're really good. They're very well done.
Before we move on, a question from Zeno for both of us.
Yeah.
Do we think that Blade Runner 2049 will be nominated for Best Picture? Me, I'm going to say no. I think it'll be nominated for a number of things, but I'm going to say no for Best Picture.
There are 10 slots. I guess there's always a possibility. Here's where I feel special effects,
Yeah.
sound editing, sound design,
100%.
perhaps. Harrison Ford potentially supporting. I think it's one of the best things he has done in a
See,
long
I would like to
time.
see a nod for Robin Wright.
She was very good
She
too.
is superb in this. I mean, she could pretty much act a shopping list, and she would nail it.
could,
To be
yep.
honest with you,
Yep.
but in this, she is
had a good
so
presence.
good, really, really good.
Yeah.
And I've interviewed her many times over the years, and this time, you could tell she genuinely liked the movie that she was promoting. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like ka-ching, I've just bought a house in Malibu level of filmmaking. It was like, I genuinely really like this part, and I like this role.
In all the interviews too that I've been seeing, number one, Harrison Ford finally found a sense of humor in doing press junkets.
Yes.
I mean, because he's been fantastic.
He's been great.
And
But he also, I think he's got a bromance going on with Ryan.
yeah, and
I
that
asked them
has
about this a couple of
helped.
weeks ago, and they genuinely like each other.
Yeah, and that has helped.
Yeah.
But they all seem to have genuinely had a good time making this movie. It definitely Harrison Ford seems to have had a much better time making this movie than he did the original Blade Runner.
Yeah.
So, again, there's a documentary that comes with the Blu-ray of the making of the original movie. It's a good 2-hour plus documentary. I highly recommend you watch that. It's Ridley Scott. It's behind-the-scenes footage that very deep into the making and how hard it was to make, and how Harrison Ford was just like not happy. Like, it was a hard movie to make. This one, they seem to have genuinely had a good time, as much as they could.
100% agree. So I'll give you the number again in case you want to call the show. 424-253-0504. That is 424-253-0504. As I said before, we are not going to discuss any of the allegations regarding any misconduct by people in the industry. That is not because we take sides. That is for purely legal reasons. So we will not be discussing that on the show. Now, Demetri, people will probably recognize you from Anatomy of a Movie.
Anatomy of a Movie, yeah.
So tell me a bit about that show in case people haven't actually seen that show.
Anatomy of a Movie is it's more than just your regular review show. We're not 140 character give an opinion about a movie.
Yeah.
We have great hosts, Phil Zvitek, Marissa Serafini, who you've seen from other shows. And we talk movies. We usually will talk about one movie. So, for example, this week we're going to talk about American Made. We not only will give our opinion about American Made, but we'll dive deep into the collaborative process as to what it took to get Doug Liman and Tom Cruise and all the particulars together and how they made American Made.
Yeah.
From pre-production to production to writing to cinematography. How did they get Doug Liman into the film? How does Doug Liman have a connection to the Iran-Contra affair of history? That's what we discuss. We really dive deep into the movies, much like you and I would go see a movie, and then we'd maybe go have some scotch. By the ways, I was
Yes.
wicked jealous.
Thank you so much.
by that.
That was my
What the
wife's
hell?
doing. She suggested it, and I was like, whiskey? Yes, okay.
That was awesome. But then you talk about movies, right?
Yeah.
You talk about movies from a fan's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
We take comments. We have people will post their comments on our YouTube page
Yeah.
and iTunes. We'll write back. We have healthy discussions about movies. So like Blade Runner, we can go back and forth. Like it's a different kind of a review show. We're not there to argue. We're there to love.
Well, it's also really good that if you feel that sometimes you can lag behind in your film knowledge or understanding of movie making or what goes on behind, if you want to kind of gen up so you can hold your own in a conversation with your friends who perhaps are more of film nerds than you might be, it's a really good way to kind of get some fun facts and a little bit of insight that perhaps people didn't know, learn a bit more about the movie making
It's
process
sort of an
as well.
idiot's guide to movie, me
Yeah.
being the head idiot. So, and you were on our show for Baby Driver.
Baby Driver, which is out on Blu-ray and DVD.
So you can
on
go
Monday.
back and watch, and like you know what the cadence of the
Yeah.
show is. You offered like so much behind the scene footage, which like for me as a movie lover, I get to talk about movies, but I also get to learn about movies. It's
part of the process.
When you research the stuff, to me, that's what I did in college. I love that.
Yeah.
So that's what Anatomy of a Movie is. We usually run about an hour and a half or so. We dive deep into the movie, and it's great. We're not there to hate. We're there to love, even though on the panel, some of us might like a movie a little bit more than the other. That's all good. We might all hate the movie together. We might all love the movie together, but we welcome we welcome the viewer to come on in. Join that discussion. Did you love, hate? What did you like? What did we miss?
Yeah.
So that's what Anatomy of the Movie is all about.
Well, obviously, as we're talking about, the show and Baby Driver being out on Monday, we're talking about the new releases at the moment and obviously the week's big film news, but I have to mention the fact that next Friday, the new film from Chadwick Boseman, Josh Gad, Kate Hudson, Dan Stevens, seriously, the cast of this movie is absolutely amazing. Sterling K. Brown, obviously we know from This Is Us, James Cromwell, Babe.
Yep, Babe.
Everybody says LA Confidential is his favorite movie. I'm going with Babe.
Star Trek First Contact.
Oh, God, I forgot about that one. Well, they're in the film called Marshall. It's based on a true story. Before he became the first African-American Supreme Court Justice, his full name was Thurgood Marshall. He was a man on a mission. Now, a lot of critics have seen this movie already. Yeah. Sadly, I haven't, but I've heard nothing but great things about the movie, which is amazing. Marshall is sensational, powerful, outstanding, one of the best movies of the year. So if you want to discover the one motion picture event that will inspire and possibly have you cheering, which does happen in movie theaters over here. It never used to happen in the UK. People do cheer movies. Oh, yeah. It's quite a somber affair in the UK. Then you should probably check out Marshall. It's going to be in theaters from October the 13th. The rating is PG, so you can take your family, take your friends, take the little ones. PG-13, and it may be inappropriate for the younger ones. But if they're worldly wise, or you want to teach them some lessons,
it's historical.
It's important stuff that we all need to know. Absolutely. Whether you agree with it or not, it's good to have the knowledge. It always informs a discussion and an argument.
And anything that could leave you feeling good, leaving a movie theater in today's world.
Yeah.
I'm all for that.
100%. So Marshall is going to be in movie theaters from October the 13th. It's PG-13. The cast is amazing, and critics love it. So we're talking about outsiders for the award season.
Sure. Marshall could
possibly
be
a chance that Marshall could be one of those. Let's talk about James Cameron and Kate Winslet reteaming again. Last time was Titanic.
Mm-hmm.
They have spoken about their good friendship, their ongoing relationship as creatives. There hasn't been a project yet that James has wanted to bring her in on. This is the one. Now, Avatar. I am not a fan of Avatar.
Okay.
I respect it.
Great.
It's creatively excellent. Didn't love it. Did not see what everybody else saw in it.
Okay.
I'm quite interested, though, in Kate Winslet.
Me too.
In it, because I think it's going to elevate the product to a slightly different level, rather than rehashing and doing the same.
Sure, no, absolutely, but I agree with that. I did love Avatar, so this is great. We have different
billions of people did, by the way.
Sure.
So I'm not the norm in that.
Yeah, no, I loved Avatar. I think that putting Kate Winslet in this movie, I was very excited. them working together again. Plus, it reaffirms that Kate Winslet, what she believes in James Cameron as a writer-director. She's not going to take a dumpy role. And you know that he's not going to write or collaborate and make a role for her that isn't a good woman character, whether she's a Na'vi, because do we exactly know what her capacity? Is she going to be human or is she going to be
Well, I believe we know the character name. I'm not aware. I certainly haven't seen the character that she'll be playing.
So, I think that her coming back is like saying, hey, I want to work with you again. I trust in you as a filmmaker and a storyteller.
Yeah.
I think it only helps, like you said, elevate the movie. I think. So.
Do you think this would open the door for maybe another Titanic star?
Like Leonardo?
I was thinking Billy Zane, to be honest with you. I mean, he's available.
Well, what's he doing?
He's not busy. Everybody goes Leo, but poor old Billy.
I thought he was one of the Na'vi in Avatar.
Maybe he was. Maybe he was one of the background actors.
He could have been.
I'm just saying. It's funny when I say Titanic, everyone goes Leo, and I'm like,
David Warner.
Yeah.
David Warner.
Yeah. Just saying, that could be a possibility. Some other interesting news this week. We heard that Judy Greer is going to be playing Jamie Lee Curtis's daughter in the new Halloween movie. Now, the more I hear about this, the more excited I'm getting about it. And I've been very lucky. There's some stories that came out from Jason Blum this week from, obviously, Blumhouse Productions. Right. And I've spoken to Jason a few times over the last sort of couple of weeks. And the fact that John Carpenter is involved in this as well.
Sure.
I like the direction that this is going. There's a lot of talk of James Franco making an appearance. There is no word on that yet. I think if James Franco does make an appearance, I'm going to assume it's not going to be a major role.
I haven't heard.
I'm not. I'm going to assume it's like a smaller, possibly like a celebrity kill. But Judy Greer is someone that I think is still massively underused.
Agreed.
By TV and film, generally.
Agreed.
Which I don't quite understand.
Yeah, I don't. She has an amazing personality. She's someone that I would love to meet. She's very Here's my whole take on Halloween. Is my favorite horror movie, the original, the John Carpenter. Favorite horror movie, and that's another movie that I can break down and dissect, like in my sleep. So I'm a fan of the series. I'm very intrigued. I was very excited by them bringing Jamie Lee Curtis back. Mm-hmm. Okay. I tweeted about that news. I was very ecstatic. My head was going to explode. I love that picture. But it just made me wonder, okay, how? And what does this mean? Does it mean they're retconning Halloween Resurrection? How are they going to do this? I don't care. She's back. And like you said, John Carpenter is in a producer capacity. He said he would do the music too, which I think would be great. So once they announced this news, then it got me to thinking, okay, I like it, but what does that mean? Because big fan of Halloween, as I said.
Yep.
I also enjoy Halloween 2. Mm-hmm. Halloween 3 is what Halloween 3 was. It's an experiment.
Yep.
I get what they were trying to do. It didn't work at the time. Okay. Then you get the return of Michael Myers, which brings up Jamie Lloyd, who is the daughter of Laurie Strode. That's who Michael Myers is going after. That continues on to 5 in The Curse. And then they sort of kind of retcon those movies with H2O. And then H2O comes out. And H2O is like a perfect bookend. It's short, it's sweet, it's efficient, it's tense. Michael Myers, Laurie Strode facing off. It is a great 20th homage and ode to the great Halloween. Then Resurrection happens, which all in all
shouldn't have happened.
Well, it shouldn't have, but I want you to think of something regarding Resurrection. It is probably the only movie in the entire series where Michael Myers is actually in his own right to kill people off. Resurrection is a home invasion movie.
Yeah.
It's Mother.
Yeah.
It's Mother. It's like all these people come into his house and he's like, what the hell? Man, get out of my house.
Yep.
But they kill off Laurie Strode, very unceremoniously. And I didn't like how they brought Michael Myers back after his having his head lopped off. So does Judy Greer retcon? Because in H2O, she has a son.
Well, I might be wrong in saying this, but I believe this is basically going to go back to the happenings in the first movies.
Actually, I reported this a bit. Well, not reported, but like I rehashed this in the horror movie news. It's actually covering the first 2 films of the franchise, and they're canning any of her previous children and just having Judy Greer as her daughter for the film.
Okay.
For the new Halloween.
Yeah, but okay, well, then,
Which, I mean, Hollywood can kind of take that license. But to be honest with you, Halloween 3, which I did not like the first time I saw it, I'm kind of in love with that movie now.
You know, it's
I
a good
really
Twilight
appreciate
Zone
it. Yeah.
type of it's
It's completely unrelated to anything else in the season.
Unrelated.
It completely unrelated to any other Halloween film.
But Dan O'Hurley is amazing as the villain. It is a good story on its own. It's only, I don't want to call it a mistake, but what John Carpenter and Deborah Hill wanted to do was they didn't just want to rehash Michael Myers movies. They wanted to use the Halloween moniker to make horror movies and release them on Halloween. But they wanted to do almost anthology, Twilight Zone-ish kind of, have maybe a little twist here and there. I understand their inspiration.
Yeah.
But it was because they had Halloween, audiences came in, so they weren't expecting witches and Stonehenge and masks and what the hell is going on here.
Yeah.
But when you distance yourself from that, I agree with you. It's really
It's a good movie. It's a good standalone movie. It's a good horror movie. Yeah, it's a great movie.
So I'm not on top with this idea that they're gonna retcon H2O.
Do you know what?
It's just too good of a movie.
But I'll take it.
You know, I mean,
I would just really like to see a good Halloween movie because a lot of the ones in the middle, they did sag. You know, and like you're saying, H2O was a really good return to form, but the rest of the franchise kind of just sagged for me a little bit.
I enjoyed the return of Michael Myers, Daniel Harris.
Yeah.
5 brought in this whole mythology that was just stupid. The Curse of Michael Myers was awful.
Yes.
I don't care if you're watching the producer's cut or not. And then H2O, but then Resurrection just like
Ruined
came
it.
up with the
Ruined it for everyone.
dumbest way to bring Michael Myers back.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. I'm thrilled beyond belief about this new Halloween.
It's shaping up really, really nicely.
I can't wait.
I discovered that John Carpenter is going to be in a comic store like a block from my house in a couple of weeks. I saw that and I almost peed my pants.
He's also on tour.
He is, yeah.
Not with the Bowling Green Orchestra, but he is out there performing his movie themes and his Lost themes. So he's on tour. He's going to be in Hollywood on Halloween, October 31st, and he's going to be in Anaheim, and he's going to be all over the place. So look for tickets for that.
Actually, in this month, there's a lot of really good movie Halloween stuff going on. I mean, I'm going to see Night of the Living Dead at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery with some friends because, I mean, where else do you watch a classic zombie movie apart from in a bloody graveyard? I offered for my wife to come with me and some friends. She was like, "Nah, I'm good." I was like, "Come on!" She's not a big horror fan anyway, but I was like, "Come on, in the graveyard, what could possibly go wrong?" Apart from the resurrection of dead people who eat your brains.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know whether you're watching Night of the Living Dead. I don't know. I have a thing about just pay your respects to the dead. I have a thing about watching movies in a cemetery, just in general. I'll go to other outside venues.
They don't get their phones out. They're very good.
Well, they're
very good. There's no rustling of like popcorn and stuff.
Yeah, I
get it. I mean, I found it quite weird the first time I went, but actually, it's in a very respectful place, and it's done really nicely, and they have maximum respect for the fact that it is a place where people are buried.
Yeah.
So they are heavily sort of security-wise on top of that. It's a great spot.
Yeah, I get it.
I get the sentiment, but
what I'm doing tomorrow, and this is Halloween related. If you are in Southern California, in South Pasadena, they actually have a Halloween exhibit in which there will be some art, Halloween type of art, from, like Mondo type, I guess.
Sure.
I haven't been there yet. Also, this photographer, Ms. Gottlieb, who worked with James Carpenter on 5 films, and she came up with a beautiful coffee table book that has her photographs of behind the scenes. And the stuff on Halloween is amazing. The cool thing about this is it's by the Halloween house. So if anything, I'm going just so I can snap pictures of the house. The artwork, like I've got plenty of Halloween art prints hanging up in my house. I don't necessarily need more.
Yeah.
I'll always look. But
well, it's good to take a look.
But
so
the Halloween house,
absolutely,
that's awesome. So
I will tell you a little interesting fact actually about someone who used to live in the Halloween house. Juno Temple, her family used to live in that house.
Really?
I interviewed her for the film Horns a couple of years ago. And yeah, so she grew up in that house. Her dad, Julian,
Now, the
was a
Michael
documentary
Myers
filmmaker.
house or the other house on Orange Street?
It was the Michael Myers house. Michael Myers house. Yeah, and they used to get people who would come and stand in their front lawn and like take their pictures. And she was a kid; she hadn't seen the movie. She was like, "Why is everybody standing in my front yard?" And it was because it was the house from Halloween. So there you go. Let's talk about some other movie news for the week. We've got about 24 minutes left on the show. So Gore Verbinski is looking like he's going to direct Gambit with Channing Tatum in the lead role. What are you thinking about that? I mean, he's had critical and economical hits and misses, and creative hits and misses.
Sure. Listen, I think he's a very solid director. This gives him an opportunity to get back into the commercial side of things. You can't take, he did The Ring. Obviously, he did the first 3 Pirates movies to great success. And I think in part those movies were successful because of his direction.
Yeah.
And then after that, he did, this little movie called The Lone Ranger. But he also did that animated movie with Johnny Depp, which was really good.
The one with the
Western.
lizards.
Yeah, the one with the lizard. That's the one.
Yeah.
The one with the Geico lizard.
Yeah, what was it called? It was
Rango.
That's right.
Good movie. He did a really
Probably
good job.
his best movie in about 8 years.
Well, after Pirates, for sure.
Yeah.
I think he can be a very good visual storyteller. Him going into the superhero and doing Gambit, and getting to work with Channing Tatum, I think for him it's a score.
We obviously London Film Festival is going on at the moment, and one of our regular viewers, a guy called Sean Wren.
Hey, Sean.
Is just saying he's got out of a screening of Stronger at the London Film Festival. Now, this is a movie I've been championing for quite a while. Wow, was his reaction. He's saying that Jake and Maslany could get Oscar nominations, with potentially Jake winning Best Actor. Now, I think that, we were talking about awards earlier, I think that's totally believable, but I think Miranda Richardson in this movie is phenomenal. To be honest with you, for me, there was nothing bad about this movie. It's in my top 3 movies of the year. It's a movie that is not getting the audience here in the US that it deserves. We're always going on about how there are not great movies, and nothing, no great stories, the acting is terrible and this and that. Stronger is just one of the best movies you will see this year. So I would expect that to be nominated and possibly win a slew of awards.
Right.
But audiences should be engaging with it more.
Yeah, I think it's twofold. I think number one, it is about the aftermath of the Boston marathon bombing.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's dealing with that. You had that earlier picture, Patriots Day, that came out by Mark Wahlberg, and I forget the director's name right now.
It was Peter Berg.
Peter Berg.
Yeah.
That movie didn't do gangbusters as they had hoped. That didn't do as it had hoped. And I think there was some backlash because of the Mark Wahlberg character. It's tough. It's tough to do a movie about this type of tragedy. Whether it's a 9/11.
Yeah.
It's hard. Like, these are movies, like, there were stories that can be inspirational told from these tragedies, but people sometimes just don't want to go back, regardless of whatever inspirational take there could be, because it's painful. For me to go see Stronger, being I'm from Boston and what that meant, and I've heard that Jake is fantastic. It's still a tough take. To do, and I know it's not focused on so much the bombing as it is his finding his humanity again, his recouping, his trying to get a modicum of humanity back inside him because he carries a lot of anger.
Yeah.
And from what I understand of just knowing that character, he had a very rough time, and there was a lot of anger.
And it's handled brilliantly in the film, to be honest with you. Todd and David, who produced it at Mandalay Films, this is, I think, the 5th film they've made in Boston. And so they have a very good relationship with the people of the city. And they got clearance from the guys that they were going to tell this story the way they were going to tell it.
Right.
They had very good reasons for why they didn't have someone who was an amputee to play the lead role. They used a lot of people who dealt with the guy at the center of the movie in real life, the guys who fitted his amputation replacements, his fake legs. They're the guys that did it for him in real life. The therapy nurses are the people that helped him in real life. So it's a difficult watch, and I'll be honest with you, it broke me as a movie. But I was in floods of tears, and it was one of the movies that have touched me the most in the last possibly 2 to 3 years.
Wow.
It's a beautifully done movie.
Yeah.
It is not an easy watch, but it is just a phenomenal piece of cinema and a brilliant telling of the story.
Yeah, I wouldn't dispute it. I haven't seen it, but we're living in a very, I think, we're living in a difficult day and age today, and various shootings, political things happening, whatever. I won't get into all that, but you know what we're living in today and what we're dealing with. And for me, movies now have an opportunity to truly entertain, and they should take people's minds off stuff. So that's why I think movies like that, as fantastic as they can be, they're just hard because people don't want to go in for 2 hours, I believe, and already bear that strength of drama, because it's just hard, because I think everyday life today with everything happening is a lot of drama too, and this is based off of a true story.
Yeah, which I 100% agree with. However, I think it makes it even more important to engage with it, because we often talk about, and Las Vegas is a great example of this. We often talk about things like the issues of terrorism, gun crime, etc., etc. We often talk about this side of the story.
Right.
And what happens when the bullet leaves a gun or a bomb goes off. We never really look at the after effects, the human side, the person that the bullet goes into, the person affected by the bomb blast.
Right.
We don't often talk about that. And I think if we talked about that a bit more, and we put a face to the result, and we put a life to the result, and we saw the effects of something, I think perhaps people would be more open about talking about things on a more open platform. And again, I think it's terrorism, it's gun control, it's so many issues.
Right.
We often stop at, here's my view, here's my cause. We don't often, because it is hard to look at the effect.
Right.
And I think if we did that, I think we'd all have a fuller picture. I'm not saying it would change opinions, but when you put a face to a situation, I think it changes
and I don't disagree.
the conversation.
You're extremely valid points, and please, I don't want to be misunderstood as saying sweep it under the rug.
Yeah,
like put your head in the sand.
It's not easy. It's an act of terrorism. It's not an easy thing to swallow, especially in your hometown.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's not what I suggest. Like put your head in the sand. It didn't happen because it did happen. I'm just saying that I think it's just hard.
Yeah, it is
for mass audiences. Because of everything, to go to that. It would be hard for me. I'm not saying that I won't see it. It's just like me right now. I'm on sabbatical. I won't see cancer movies.
Yeah,
it's something that deeply affected my life, and and so I don't need that in my life. I don't care how good of a movie it is.
Yeah,
I just don't need it when I go to a movie for 2 hours. Because I've lived through a lot and don't need it. It could be the best movie. Could win Best Picture. Hey, kudos.
Yeah.
Don't need it.
Yeah.
So I think it's just hard.
You see, I think that is a valid excuse.
Right.
I think people generally going, I don't want to look at that. I think that these are the people that I think need to perhaps see it the most.
Yeah, and they're very good movies too.
Yeah, it's not like Hallmark movie of the week. It's like, oh no, my legs got blown off. This is so sad. I'll learn to walk again. Everyone's happy. This guy's life is absolutely destroyed.
Right.
100% destroyed. His relationships, his work environment, his friends. Instantly, the minute he's in a wheelchair, people talk. There are guys in a bar who are talking about a conspiracy theory. Maybe you were part of it. It changes this man's world 100%. Right. It's like a completely different alien life.
Yeah.
And I think we often don't think about that.
You're
sometimes.
absolutely right. You're right.
While we're talking about obviously the tragic events in Las Vegas this week, there are a couple of premieres that were either toned down or cancelled this week. Marshall was one of them. Blade Runner was toned down. There was no press on the red carpet. But also, it's New York Comic Con this week, and Marvel have taken the decision to pull Punisher from that event, and to delay the release of the series. This often happens when we have it. I remember after 9/11, Swordfish was in movie theaters, which starts out with a terrorist attack. Was not similar to what happened on 9/11 at all, but it was pulled from movie theaters. This does happen when there was an incident year before last. There was Shooter was pulled from USA, and that was delayed. I sometimes wonder if that's the best thing, if it's not directly related. I understand the sentiment, but I just wonder sometimes, and this is coming from someone who's a liberal, if the reasoning behind that is entirely
altruistic, or do they think they have a stinker on their hands?
Yeah,
and they're looking for an excuse.
Punisher, so far, to be honest with you, has had pretty strong reviews, and there is more anticipation for that than, say, Iron Fist.
Yeah, it's a very great topic to talk about because it affects us and the who go to movies and things, and it's very interesting because the other day I was at the movies and I think I was seeing American Made, and I saw the trailer for Death Wish, the Bruce Willis movie, and I was like, ew, okay, I get it, but with all of this discussion, because it's back again about gun control. Yeah. This is sort of kind of going against gun control. And I get it. I've seen the original Death Wish. I know what it's about. Yep. I get it. But I was like wondering, how are they just going to ignore the events and maybe take their shots? Because there's potential that they will get some criticism about how can you show this movie now? It was something that I thought about. And I get it. Social, political stuff can affect what we see, how we see thematically what we see in the movies. I think in some cases, I think their heart is in the right place. Yeah. And to take it out of Comic-Con, to at least delay the release, I think, at least for the time being, in a way, that's their gun control. To have a movie like Shooter coming out, or a television series, it's a way that it's Hollywood's gun control. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's curbing that. Let things settle. We'll give it a good break when it comes out. I know a lot of people were probably looking to see Punisher at Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con. I just think I think the heart, in this case with Hollywood, I think their heart's in the right place. Yeah. I understand why they might do it, because why take unnecessary hits? Because then it becomes, that show, which should be just for entertainment purposes only, it could become a political hotbed. Some politician could point at it and say, how irresponsible of Hollywood, when it has nothing to do with. So I think it's just their way of saying, we don't need those hits. We don't need those. We don't need political hits. Yeah. We just want to entertain people, and people like the property.
Well, I mean, we won't stay on this for too long, but I think it is an issue that has to be addressed. I mean, there's Don Draper in the chat who said that we're getting political, so he's out of here. So sorry to lose you, Don, but it's all part of the tapestry, how we have political movies, political thrillers, topics are going to affect the industry.
And Hollywood has pulled back releases. I mean, you talked
It's
about
happened before.
9/11, right? Spider-Man changed their marketing. The Tobey
did.
Maguire. The original thing was he was on the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
They completely took that out. So
Well, also, I mean, it was interesting. The Brave this week on NBC was saying that it's basically to do with American government's anti-terrorism units going overseas and fighting terrorism, and they put a warning before the show. They didn't pull it, and that was the night after that was the night of the shootings. It was a Sunday or Monday. And so they continue to show it. So I always find it quite interesting why some people do decide to go. And again, that was not connected to what happened in Vegas. But obviously, around the gun issue, people
really
are going to be
smart,
more
though.
sensitive. I think that is a very good way to do it.
Absolutely.
But I think it kind of has to be up to the individual broadcasters to make their own call on it. But I think if it's not connected to it, it's not like it was someone shooting into a crowd. I think there's kind of a justification for it still being shown. But again, these are things that happen in real life that we can't shy away from. We can't ignore whatever your political or personal view is. We can't deny.
And it affects us
these things
as
happen.
movie
Yeah,
watchers,
100%.
as moviegoers. I feel really bad of losing Don Draper because of this conversation. I really do.
He'll
Because
be back another week. It's fine.
I still feel bad because I don't think that it's political. I think it is something that affects movie going, and I do think that it's affecting Comic-Con going.
Yeah.
it affects us as fans.
It affects pop culture.
And
And that's not as a political thing. It's the fact that something that is terrible, and I think anybody from any political position can agree that what happens in Las Vegas, and has happened many times before, and will unfortunately probably happen many times after, is a terrible thing.
I just feel really shitty that it happens to be in a show that I'm on, and you're losing audience.
Well, no, it's
That
fine.
bums
It's
me
fine.
out.
No, but
That
I think
just bums me out.
Life
think it's a good
influences art, and art
conversation.
will influence life, and I think that's unfortunately the thing that is going to be a continual cycle.
Yeah.
It's not even a political thing; it's just a fact of life.
It is.
So I think I think it's always interesting to see how the industry reacts to incidents that do happen.
Sure.
So there's a lot of other news we do need to cover as well. Let's talk about Todd McFarlane saying this week that his new Spawn movie, again, which is coming from Jason Blum and Blumhouse, is going to earn its hard R rating, which I am a Spawn apologist. I like the first Spawn movie. It's
too.
heavily flawed, but I do enjoy it.
Keith David's great.
Yeah.
I mean, he really was. And I got to meet him at Son of Monster Palooza. And this is a guy, The Thing, They Live, Platoon. This guy's been in a ton of stuff. I didn't hate the first Spawn movie. I thought they did actually, given the technology that they had at the time, the movie looked pretty good. I thought it was R. It was R. It was pretty violent. Is it time for another Spawn movie? Well, why wouldn't it be? Because it's we're in that.
There's a whole new
superhero
generation
thing.
who haven't even seen the original Spawn movie.
Or read the comic books.
And it's not like it's one of those movies that is kind of repeated on cable and stuff all the
it's
time. I
not.
don't even know if it's on streaming.
I haven't seen it.
So,
no.
yeah. I mean, I have it on Blu-ray because I'm a...
Wait, actually,
nerd.
it's on Netflix right
on
now.
Oh, it is on Netflix?
Yeah.
This is something with Netflix that I find... I mean, I don't know whether it's because I'm getting older, but it's so difficult to find
It
some
is your
things...
birthday today.
It is my birthday today. It is so difficult to find some things on Netflix, and there's some really good stuff buried deep in Netflix that it's actually quite difficult to find.
It's like having
Such a
a
shame.
movie library.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard to find the movie.
But someone's put half your Blu-rays behind a brick wall.
Or they're
Yeah.
not alphabetized.
Yeah.
What?
It's just the craziest thing. Even going through by genre sometimes, it's like, that movie's not in there, but it's in your Netflix library. So that kind of annoys me. Let's talk about, this is a story that I spoke to Bill Condon on Tuesday. It's the re-release of Dreamgirls on Blu-ray and DVD. Right. And so I had a conversation with him. He's in London at the moment doing pre-production work on Bride of Frankenstein.
Yep.
So I did a piece for Forbes. The full interview is on Forbes.com if you'd like to check it out. And he was telling me that it was going to start on, this is Tuesday, Hollywood. It's amazing. February 1st, that was their start date. They were building sets. He was working with some of the team of Beauty and the Beast. Everything was laid out. Javier signed on. He's ready, good to go. February 1st. Asked him about Angelina Jolie. He's like, he couldn't confirm. It's kind of stuff is happening, and, you know, maybe. It was a very heavily weighted yes, but she hasn't put pen to paper.
Right.
And then, yesterday, it's off. It's off. Universal have taken Bride of Frankenstein off the slate, and it's now not going to start shooting in February.
Yeah, I heard that too. Yeah.
I'm kind of bummed.
Well, I have mixed.
Okay.
I have mixed, and I'll tell you why. If you saw us on Anatomy of a Movie when we broke down The Mummy, not a good movie. The Mummy was supposed to kick off this whole dark universe.
Yeah.
And at that time, they had already announced Bride of Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
It was going to fall under this dark universe thing,
Yeah.
right? It was. Here's my whole thing. Number one, if you're going to spend all this time and attention and money and building up this universe, fine. Okay. Why then, A, did you remake The Mummy, which has been remade?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't go back to doing Dracula? Because it's been done before. And The Bride of Frankenstein is held by many to be in the top 10 of horror movies, period. As a sequel, as a movie on its own, they're very big shoes to fill on doing that movie.
Yeah.
And we've seen different Frankenstein movies, even some Wolfman movies. And I'm like, okay, Dark Universe, I always said, why aren't you doing Creature from the Black Lagoon? When has there ever been a remake of that?
Yeah.
Never. Why not The Invisible Man? When has there been a remake of that? And that movie is extremely dark.
Yeah.
If you watch the original.
It's a great movie.
It's a great movie. Pick movies that you haven't already made ad nauseum, that people may not be as familiar with anymore. Don't remake a movie that is loved.
But that's
by
also
many.
that I agree with you, but that's also on the flip side, the fact that these things are known by people. It is a lot easier to sell them. I mean, obviously The Mummy didn't really work, but to sell them on something they're already familiar with than having to go, what is The Invisible Man? What is The Creature from the Black Lagoon? To start building that
people
again.
People do know Creature. It just doesn't have. I mean, Bride of Frankenstein has critical love, horror movie fan love. Creature from the Black Lagoon the same, but in today's marketplace, Creature is so marketable that it'll be a different movie, and it is so greatly marketable that you should do that. Make a good monster movie. We've had different Frankenstein movies that just have not worked. This isn't against Bill Condon, because what you missed out between movie was on, movie off, somewhere in the middle they said, oh, this movie's not going to be part of the Dark Universe. And I was like, well, it's great that you've been spending so much time and attention and building this thing up. If it's not going to, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Angelina Jolie would be great.
I think she'd be great. And I'm also really excited because Bill is a director that I really like. A lot of his smaller projects that have not perhaps got the acclaim or the recognition that they should have got. I mean, Gods and Monsters is an amazing movie. Kinsey, I think, is a really nice piece of work.
What's Gods
very
and Monsters
accomplished.
about?
James Whale, the director of Exactly. Right. So that's why one of the reasons I love the fact that he's making this movie is because when he spoke to me this week, was like, this is the third Frankenstein movie that he think James would have made if James was around in 2017. Right. This guy knows James Whale.
Yes.
He knows his stuff. He's a James Whale fan. So this is really a continuation of James's legacy in a 2017 studio movie, or 2018, 2019, whatever it will be now. And I trust him on this. So I was I
do too.
Yeah. So I was kind of surprised that they've gone, let's just shelve this for a while. Apparently it's to work on the script. I haven't seen the script. I haven't read the script. I don't think the script is hugely important. I mean, it'd help.
It helps.
It's important.
It's a guideline.
But it's not, I really want to see dramatically what he can do. And I think a lot of it will be mood. I think a lot of it will be design. I think a lot of it will be sound. And I think a lot of it will be cast. And I think perhaps a good script is really important in any movie. But I think with all of those other components, you know, we'll see.
I think that Universal, after The Mummy, although it did great internationally,
Yeah.
I think they are a little gun shy.
Yeah.
And again, it's just such a tough movie because it is so beloved that if you just screw it up a little, like, because you're not doing Beauty and the Beast, because you're going to get that crowd in there. You're going to get the girls to go see it, right? You can change it a little bit here. It's still going to do great. Horror, we're a little bit of a different breed. We love, we love the genre, especially when it's awesome. And, you know, when you do a remake, Rob Zombie's Halloween movies, you know, it's tough. And when a movie that is as near perfect as The Bride of Frankenstein, and many say that they like it better than its original, it does that crazy feat. It's just that it's tough. Not that Bill Condon can't do it, not that he doesn't have familiarity with the subject matter. It's just hard. And the way that Universal will market it, that's another thing. Who are they going to go out for? Are they going to try to get that Mummy crowd? It's hard to do.
All 7 of them. Perhaps they can invite them,
it's just
fly them in,
it's just,
take them to the premiere.
Great picture. It's just hard to. You don't want to make it too highbrow, and you can't make it too lowbrow.
Yeah.
It's just big shoes to
But
fill.
I'll be honest with you, we're talking about scripts. I mean, some of my favourite horror movies have shit scripts. Chopping Mal is one of my favourite horror movies of all time. Diabolically bad scripts. Terrible script.
But again, it's your favorite.
But it's just a great horror movie.
For what it is, it's awesome. You'll love it.
I love it. But there you go.
And I don't disagree with that, but I don't think Bride of Frankenstein is going for that.
No.
I don't think they're going for exploding heads.
No, and like robots and stuff.
robots.
Yeah. Let's talk about Fast and Furious. And there's a couple of things around that. Chopping Mal's amazing. Come on, man. That's a supreme movie.
It's funny that we're talking Bride of Frankenstein.
Love it. Chopping Mal.
You just took a left.
Bride of Chopping Mal.
I love it.
Fast and Furious has been pushed back. Another film that's been pushed back to 2020. And also news this week that the Fast and Furious spin-off is due in 2019. Looks like, apparently, Shane Black could be in line to direct that. I mean,
yesterday.
That, to me, I'm good. I like Shane Black. I think Nice Guys was criminally underseen last year.
Oh, my God.
Great
It was
movie.
Crazily underseen. I'm a huge Shane Black fan. I'm a Last Boy Scout and Long Kiss Goodnight apologist. I love those movies, his writing. You and I were talking about this before we went live. I'm on board with it even prior to knowing that Shane Black may be involved because it's taking the characters that I love the most in the last Fast and Furious movie, which is The Rock and Jason Statham. I mean, you can't deny that the chemistry that those two had together.
It's the best thing in the movie.
And they were
I wasn't a fan of the last Fast and Furious.
I didn't hate it, but they definitely... Statham showed a great sense of humor, and I was like, these two together make a great duo. And as soon as I had heard, because they were talking about this last summer, I was like, I get it, and it would probably work, because those two really have good chemistry.
I would watch that. I mean, I'm a big fan of both of those guys, and I just think, like I say, they were the best thing in the last movie. And I don't think it's necessarily because the rest of the movie was particularly bad. I think that they were just so much better than what that movie was offering.
Yeah, and they had a lot more of the entertaining parts, like Jason Statham with the baby scene. It was great.
Also, I just want to see more Helen Mirren in there, because I thought Helen Mirren
was great
as Jason Statham's mum was genius.
Genius.
Absolute genius. I loved it.
I loved seeing somebody like, the Queen.
Yeah.
Is in a Fast
I'll
and
tell you what,
Furious
though,
movie.
Helen Mirren has got a filthy mouth.
Yeah.
I've heard her personally, and every single person I know that's worked with her, she's got a mouth like a sailor.
God bless her.
Yes, I mean, I love it. I think it's brilliant. I'd love to see her exercise that a bit more.
How awesome was she in Excalibur?
She's awesome at everything. I could literally watch her read a grocery list and shove a couple of fucks in, and I'll be more than happy. Maybe a dick joke, and we're rolling. Now, we were talking about horror earlier, and Zayas Bilou in the chat is saying, speaking of horror films, have any of us caught the new Chucky movie? I have.
Oh.
I watched it. I got
Nice.
sent a preview disc. Can I just say, a lot of people often talk about the Child's Play or Chucky franchise, and they wonder why movies that franchise are not being released in theaters. They're being released straight to Blu-ray and DVD and streaming. It's going to be on Netflix, although the Netflix one will be not the unrated one. It'll be a cut version.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, that came out this week. So if you want to see the unrated version, you do need to buy or rent the Blu-ray or DVD. One of the reasons that the Chucky movies, which are popular, they definitely have a big audience, are not making it into theaters, is because piracy. They're not selling, they're not shifting the units, they're not making the money to justify putting it into theaters. Now, bearing in mind that this film came out the same week, a couple of days after Jeepers Creepers 3, very controversial film, I'm not going to promote it, but was released in theaters. Now, that space could have been easily taken by the Cult of Chucky. That could have easily happened, and probably would have done not big box office,
Right.
but
Well,
at least some box office.
I would, just from having a tiny bit of distribution experience working for Universal and then Lionsgate for a good decade or so. I think the last Chucky movie that was in theaters, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, was Bride of Chucky.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the one with Meg Tilly. Listen, a fun movie. I got to know one of the producers of that movie because they worked on Frailty. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Bill
great
Paxton's movie.
Bill Paxton's
Brilliant movie.
It really is. And Corey Cienega and this other gentleman, David, and I forget his last name, forgive me, it's been a little while. They had part in Chucky and what it did. And the first movie, let's face it, it's a complete B horror movie that sort of took cinema by surprise.
Yeah.
And then they came up with the second one, and then they sort of kind of, just from from the standpoint of quality, sort of took a little bit of a dive. But Bride of Chucky sort of kind of brought that fun back.
Yeah.
I thought, and I saw it at the theaters. I had a great time. But then Universal does this weird thing where they don't want to necessarily put the money into, like, if you do really well with Bride of Chucky, David Kirshner is the gentleman's name.
Yeah.
You want to take the money and put it back into a sequel and then add a little bit more and put a little more money into it. Because that's the other thing with horror fans, too. I think, speaking for myself, I like a good B movie.
Yep.
I don't care, right? But if it really looks cheap in cinema, then it really looks cheap. And, like, you sort of kind of go, well, that looks like it could have been on Blu-ray. But when you look at Universal's history, like, how many Beethoven movies have they made? How many,
so
like,
many.
Flintstone
Airbud.
movies have they made that gone directly to Blu-ray? Unfortunately, Chucky, I think, has sort of kind of fallen into that because they don't want to, where I think they should, because it's a good franchise, it's a good time to reboot. But I think they make enough off the streaming that they're just happy. They don't have to go through the efforts of releasing it.
But even before the movie had hit shelves or been available on streaming, I mean, I had a lot of people coming back to me on social media, and I know, a lot of the guys at various horror websites had people going, I've already seen it, I downloaded it, streaming illegally. And that's one of the reasons that these things don't get more money put into them, is because, and if you're a true fan, you will wait until October the 3rd to get the Blu-ray or the DVD. And if you don't want to keep it, sell it on eBay. Sell it on to someone else or give it to someone else to watch. But you don't, if you download it illegally...
Yeah, listen, I'm not for that.
That's not
I don't
helping
like it.
at all.
No, it doesn't help at all. But the studio can take better... And again, because they don't have because they're not putting the money into releasing it theatrically. Because once that happens, and I'm not saying the movies don't leak out, but you are putting more money into taking safeguards from a movie leaking out.
True.
So when you're going streaming, they're just not paying attention as much. So I, in part, will blame Universal for allowing that type of a leak to happen because they're just not taking it as serious. Because
I think that's fair. And they're not the only studio.
No, they're not.
They're not the only studio
I'm just
doing that.
speaking on behalf of, like, when they're putting a movie into theatrical, there's a lot of money invested in that.
Yep.
They take bigger, harder safeguards. It's not saying that it doesn't happen, but if you're just going on Blu-ray DVD, it's it can be easier, and it's too bad. It's too bad that happened to Universal.
Yeah.
And you're right. If you're streaming, if you're downloading illegally, I don't want any part of it.
Yeah.
None.
The film itself is good. It's not my favorite film in the franchise at all, by any stretch, but it is good fun. It does something completely different with Chucky. If I tell you too much about it, it's going to completely spoil it, so I won't. It is good fun. We know who's back and who isn't. That's readily available. But if you want a bit of fun, I would say yeah. I mean, it's not a great movie. But I enjoyed it. I had a bit of fun with it, so that's good. It's fluff, it's bump, it's good, good fun horror.
One of my favorite actresses. Oh my God, I had such the big hots for her early on, and today she's held up really well. But she was in the second or third one, Jenny Agutter.
Yeah.
Who was in American Werewolf in London?
Yeah.
That was the movie where I was
Yep.
like Hachi Machi.
Yeah.
But she's in one of the Chucky movies.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's talk about a couple of other things.
Sure.
We're going to wrap up the show soon. I want to talk about box office as well.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the Men in Black spin-off.
Sure.
Obviously, Men in Black, we haven't had a new film for about 4 years.
4 years?
Is it
Has it been?
4
I thought
years?
it's been longer.
Is it 24?
longer.
Is it 5 years? When was the last one? Let me just check.
Men in Black 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Men in Black 3 was... Let me just check the date on that, actually. Let me see. Men in Black 3.
No calls.
2012. 2012, so that's 5 years
5
ago.
years.
There was talk about doing a Jump Street crossover. That has now kind of disappeared into the ether. Might happen, probably won't. But they are going to do a Men in Black spin-off. It's not going to have Will Smith. It's not going to have Tommy Lee Jones. It's not going to have anybody in it previously. It's going to be a completely new thing. I'm ready with this, actually. Of franchises that people want to reinvigorate and put out there, there's a gap in the market right now where I think actually that could be quite good fun.
Depending, I think, who the creative people are behind it.
Yeah.
And, who you're getting for a director, who you're getting for your talent to be in it, which way you're going to go. I don't disagree. It's not having Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith at this point. It's like, okay, I understand.
Yeah.
We're going to go a different route. I will be more interested once they start putting that pen to paper and starting to say, oh, we've hired this actor. Oh, this is going to be the person who writes it and directs it. Once I get a better sense of the creative people behind it, then I'll be able to maybe be on board or not on board.
You see,
I don't mind the concept.
I'm just wondering. I mean, with three decent to very decent movies, I'm just wondering if perhaps the concept might be better fitted to being a TV series.
That's actually
rather than
really
than a movie. When you've got to reinvent a franchise unless they're looking at it as being like a new trilogy.
Right.
I'm just thinking there's actually, I mean, the cartoon series we know was already, was successful in the 90s.
Sure.
I'm just thinking that perhaps this would work actually really well as effectively a Men in Black meets Twilight Zone-esque Stranger Things type show. Would work actually quite nicely.
Why not? Because the science fiction genre on TV is taking off.
Yeah.
I say
people are investing and believing in it again.
It's taken off already. And it's, I think, some of the best science fiction I've watched recently has been on TV.
Yeah.
With the likes of movie shows like The Expanse. I've been having the best time watching Orville. So having a series of Men in Black where their weekly adventures where it could be fun and investigative in nature and aliens, I think as a television series it could work really well.
We were talking about Chucky earlier and obviously piracy, which is illegal. So it is illegal, just so in case anybody has any doubts. Don Draper, who is back.
Oh, hey, Don.
Thanks
for coming back.
Said couldn't quit the show, which is good. Saying that with a movie like Chucky, Don thinks that piracy might help a bit with word of mouth, etc., leading to people who don't pirate or know how to rent or buy. I get that logic, but for every person that pirates it, you lose a person that would pay for it. And I don't think having that word of mouth, especially if it's going on things like Netflix, etc., that word of mouth actually has that much value. It's not like it's buying a movie ticket.
No, it's not. And again, because it's
illegal, that's what the purpose of a trailer is to do that.
I'm not sure what kind of word of mouth that's actually getting out. Somebody can pirate it, but 9 out of 10, what they're going to do is they're going to take that pirated copy and they're either going to have their friends over to watch it or they're going to give it to a friend to watch it.
Yeah.
So it's never going to really make up for that fact, no matter how much that group of friends said, oh yeah, I saw Chucky, yeah, we really had a good time. A, they didn't pay for it. B, they're not talking to their other social media people, friends or whatever. They're keeping it contained within their group of friends. So it doesn't get out as much as you would think that it would.
Yeah.
And
But what it does highlight is the fact that you can get it for free.
Yeah.
So why would you pay to see it? You know, why would you buy the cow if you can get the milk for free? You just simply wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
So I think it's an interesting. I mean, you know, bottom line, piracy is illegal. Yeah. Do not do piracy. But I think there is a wider debate here about, you know, whether it does, you know, work in its favor. I would say no. I think the long shot is you can have all the word of mouth in the world,
right?
But until people hand over their money for a ticket or buy a Blu-ray or buy a download, it's completely superfluous. Everybody could love a movie, but if nobody pays to see it,
right,
you're not going to get another one. It's going to kill the movie.
And it could kill that middle movie. Like I think like with a movie like The Avengers, piracy ain't doing. People are going.
Yeah,
they're spending a ton of money. You know, that middle movie, it could hurt that because again, people have the option to see it at home for free or whatever. They're not going to pay to see a really good movie. And I also argue not only is it illegal, but you're missing out on an amazing experience. Could you imagine watching Blade Runner on your laptop, 2049?
You're completely going to lose everything that movie is about.
Right. And why? Why would you do as a movie? I get, and trust me, I understand the anticipation for a movie. You do too.
100%.
You can't wait for
100%.
it. But if somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, I got a copy. It's Blade Runner 2049." Like if they came up to me last week, I would have said, "Keep it." And what's your name? Because there's a reward.
Yeah.
There's a hefty reward.
I've seen those signs.
Yeah. I'm going to the theater.
Yeah.
See it there.
But also, if you are excited enough to see a movie, then you should be excited enough to pay $15. Or wait until it comes on Netflix. So either hand over your money or just wait.
Yeah.
Sit your ass down. But piracy is illegal. Do not do that.
I don't condone it.
Let's talk about this week's releases. We touched on Blade Runner at the top of the show. We had a discussion about that. I mentioned that in previews it's brought in 4 million. 800,000 of that was from IMAX alone, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
That's a good preview haul for IMAX.
I saw it in XD, which is Cinemark's version of IMAX, and it looks stunning.
Yeah.
And the sound.
It's amazing, isn't it? Amazing. So we're looking at about 45 to 50 million for an opening weekend this week. I think that's about in the right region.
I think so.
I don't see it being a breakout hit. I see it having a strong... I see the tail off. I see people going maybe a second or third time to see it, the hardcore people. I think the tail off we're going to see over the next couple of weeks is going to be steady. I don't think it's going to be dramatic, but I think it's going to be quite steady. And I think it'll make enough money to wipe its face. I think it'll definitely be a hit with a small h. I don't think we're going to see something that is going to break, you know, box office records or that kind of level of return.
No, I think it's going to do very well internationally.
Yeah.
And, I think they're going to do very well with the movie. They'll do great with the fans. For the mass audiences, as I said, I think it's a crapshoot. They could go in and say... who have no familiarity with Blade Runner and go, oh, well, that was long. It was boring. It stretches. Nothing's happening. Like what's, you know, and that's the way the first movie was received by audiences and particularly critics alike. I think it's been good for them that they've had a strong marketing campaign. B, the reviews have been good. I'm just going to be very interested to see what the cinema score is on it. Nobody came up to me and asked me what I thought, but you know, you gave it a solid B+. I give it an A-. I will most likely go see it again, potentially this weekend.
Yeah.
But the mass audiences, I think they're going to go because of the marketing and Ryan Gosling and Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
But we'll see. It doesn't have that much competition.
Well, which was going to be my next thing. I mean, really, the only other major release this week, or anywhere near a major release, is The Mountain Between Us, which took 400,000 in previews last night, which is fine.
Sure.
You know, it's okay. I don't think anybody, even the studio, are kind of accepting that to be a monster hit.
No.
It'll do okay. I mean, I believe in some territories in Europe, it's not being released theatrically. So I think the expectations for that have kind of been metered down a bit. But there is one movie that's opening in New York and LA this week that I saw 2 weeks ago, and I spoke to Jeff about this last week. The Florida Project.
Okay.
Which is from the same director who did Tangerine a couple of years ago, which got a lot of acclaim. This kind of tonally is kind of a very similar film. It's like a lot of people talking about stuff and doing stuff, but it's kind of like a snapshot of a bigger life story that we don't get to see. This is one of the best films I've seen this year.
Really?
Every single aspect of this film is absolute perfection. It seems so natural. It's very fly on the wall. Willem Dafoe is the biggest name in it. He's the star of the movie, but he is not the main player. He has a major role. Okay. But it's really about the other people who are living in this motel in Orlando. No way. It's a phenomenal piece. It's just amazing. I did not like the ending. I spoke to Jeff about this last week. The ending just lost me. That last 2 or 3 minutes didn't quite work. Spoilt it for me. But seriously, it is one of the best films I've seen this year. The level of acting and the level of authenticity in this film, really, from performances through to environment, through to everything, it is just superb. Wow. This, I've seen a lot of movies, and I've seen other people on film Twitter talking about this, how they're kind of like going, do I love movies anymore? There's been a lot of movies that you're kind of like going, you're kind of indifferent to, or they've been okay, or they've been good, but they've not been amazing. This is one of the films I've seen this year that reminds me why I love movies so much. Really? It's a great piece of cinema. And Sean Baker has done such amazing work with this. I really hope the audiences get behind this film.
Well, you've got me intrigued.
I don't think it's not going to be a movie that's going to make a shed load of money, but if you love film, this is a film that you can see. Oh, we have a caller. Okay, we're going to take one caller before we end the show today. Hello, who are you and where are you from?
Hello, my name is Nick.
Okay, you're breaking up a lot.
Hold on.
Okay, let's give you a second and see if you can...
Hello?
Hello, yes. Who are you and where are you calling from?
My name is Nick. I'm calling from New York City.
Hey, Nick, how are
listener,
you?
first-time caller.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, thank you for calling in.
Yeah, so a little while back, you guys were talking about the Coming to America sequel.
Yes.
And I had actually tweeted you about this, Simon, not too long ago, about how I thought the movie could work, especially in today's climate. And basically, by having the American side of the family going to visit Africa and kind of discovering their cultural identity and having fish out of water tale, but with Americans going to Africa.
Yeah. I remember your tweets.
About that?
Yeah. For me, I do like that idea, but I think the whole idea of coming to America, I just think I kind of do like it. I just something about it that I'm not entirely convinced by. The whole
there is something that is a little shilly and perhaps kind of cash grabby about rebooting this franchise,
and it's kind of replicating that
Africa.
That kind of replicating that fish out of water thing. And also, I think from a stereotype point of view, I just think it might be a little bit of an awkward watch.
Interesting.
So I think it might be very difficult to do without not necessarily offending people, but doing it in a way that gives real comedic relief. That doesn't seem schlocky or like, look, these are people in a foreign land. Look at the foreigners. I'm just
no. I think it would definitely have to play off the ignorance of Americans coming to a strange place like that and how they would come into that. But another issue is that so much of the cast is gone. I mean, the father that was in Coming to America is passed away recently.
I mean, I also think with the issue of ignorance of Americans, I think it's a really interesting idea. But the thing is, American audiences don't like to see movies where they're made to look stupid. Right. So I think internationally, I think you would find an audience because, unfortunately, at the moment there are a lot of people who are looking at America and they kind of see it as something of a joke. And I think that internationally that might play well, but I think domestically, where really a lot of the core audience for this film is going to be, I think it's going to be a very difficult sell if you're going to make your target audience look stupid.
Yeah, I mean,
And I think that's not just America. I think if you made British people look stupid in a movie, a lot of Brits are going to take offense at that. I think if you made Africans look stupid in a movie, a lot of Africans are going to, well, you made us look stupid. We're not all living in mud huts and blah blah blah. I think it's a really difficult sell when you start to do that kind of thing. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
I
Demetri.
agree with you. No, I agree with you 100% on that. As soon as I had heard about the sequel, number one, that years gap in between. Number one, as a standalone movie coming to America is one of the best.
Yeah.
But part of the reason is because you had lightning in a bottle. You had John Landis at the top of his form, but you also had Eddie Murphy, who was really sort of he was on the cusp, like, because it was coming to America. That was the movie that Eddie Murphy's ego was coming into play, and he was fighting a lot with John Landis. Okay. And I believe it was after Coming to America. I know he'd done that one vampire movie, which I thought was
Vampire in Brooklyn.
Vampire in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
But, I mean...
Terrible movie.
It came to a point where literally Eddie Murphy had said, John Landis has a better shot at getting Vic Morrow to star in his next movie than me. And then Beverly Hills Cop 3 came out.
Yeah.
But the creative people behind the original Coming to America were just fantastic. And, Eddie Murphy was still Eddie Murphy. I see this as a shot, potentially, to see that old Eddie Murphy again. I still believe that he's got one more funny. You can't get rid of that kind of funny, all right? Raw has been on, or Delirious has been on HBO and cable lately.
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy is, in his time, the funniest man on stage. And his movies, when you look at Coming to America, Trading Places, the Beverly Hills Cop movies, he's funny. He's great. I was thinking, geez, maybe they want to open up a McDowell's franchise in Zimbabwe, like whatever the African community is. I was like, oh, McDowell's in Africa. That could be funny.
Yeah, and then they can play off a corporate theme and kind of maybe escape the racial themes and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that would be a better direction for it.
But what is the inspiration for getting Prince, right now I forget his name, getting Eddie Murphy back to America? He too is also, and by he I'm talking Eddie Murphy, I don't know how lax he's gotten. I mean, part of the reason why Beverly Hills Cop 2 took place back in Beverly Hills, the original story was supposed to take him to London. But he had a bad experience overseas filming, I think it was Best Defense with Dudley Moore, and he said, never again. And they're like, no, but we're gonna take Axel Foley to London. It'll be great. Nope, I'm not traveling. So they retooled the script so that they can film it back in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
So I don't know how willing he would be to try. I don't know if he's tempered down a lot.
I think what might work is if Eddie Murphy has to go back and be the king, if the king dies.
Oh,
and he has to basically then takes everything that he's learned from being in America over back to Zamunda.
Yeah, Zamunda. That's
I think that might be a thing.
And what about
potentially
the woman who played his wife, who was gorgeous too? Like, trying to get this cast back together again.
Arsenio Hall is available.
Of course.
Arsenio Hall, Billy Zane.
He's very available.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
And
Edward Furlong. Let's get them all in.
And I think that they could. Again, it could be Eddie Murphy's one last shot at being funny again. Because those are funny characters, but who are you going to have?
Well, I heard he was doing stand-up again. He's working on funny, and he's working on getting those chops up again.
Yeah.
But his last films, like, what was the
Mr.
drama
Church
that he did?
was the last one, and that went pretty much, it had a small theatrical and then went to Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
It's a good movie. I actually enjoyed that as a drama, but the last good thing that Eddie Murphy's done, back to Dreamgirls, is probably his role in Dreamgirls was his non-Shrek
and
best
then
role.
He didn't get the Academy Award.
Yeah.
He got very upset about that. And I think the other thing that happened with Eddie Murphy too is that they had the the 45th or the 50th anniversary of Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
And he was supposed to come on, and I think people were hoping he was going to come
He didn't want to make fun of Bill Cosby, I think, was the thing.
Well, but
people
wanted him to be funny. And people were expecting, and that had a huge audience, and all he did was, we'll be right back after this commercial. And people were like, it.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, Eddie. You had an opportunity to be funny. Even if you said, I'm Gumby, damn it, people would have laughed. And they would have gone, Eddie Murphy could be back. And he sort of kind of blew it there. He had an opportunity. I want him to be funny again, because I go back to the Eddie Murphy well a lot.
Yeah.
Because I think he's brilliant.
I have the DVD of the stuff that he did on Saturday Night Live, things like the buckwheat stuff, and and being James Brown in the hot tub. James Brown Celebrity Hot Tub is one of my favorite SNL sketches of all time. Genius.
Mr. Robertson's Neighborhood?
Yeah, genius. It's just amazing. So I think as far as, we don't know where it's going to go. We know that there's been a script delivered and they're looking at directors and stuff. I think there are, rather than doing the flipping the fish out of water thing, I think there are better and stronger ways that I think they could take it, that I think will not alienate audiences, and I think will sit a bit more comfortably with the general sensibilities of the movie-going audience, I think.
And I guess this is going to be Paramount too.
I believe they still own the rights.
You know, Jim Giannopoulos now, who's now running Paramount, I think it has a half decent chance. Although Paramount sort of kind of blew it because they wanted to try to redo Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah.
And then it went from theatrical to, no, we're not going to do theatrical, we're going to do television series. But Eddie Murphy's still going to be involved, and that's not even happening.
Yeah, that did not go well.
Things at Paramount, they need to... Dust is still settling over there.
Yeah.
Coming to America right now seems to be their best shot at having Eddie Murphy, as to having, number one, a non-family Eddie Murphy vehicle.
Yeah.
Where this could be rated R. Because that's where he strives. That's where he's funny.
If you're doing Eddie Murphy, you've just got to let him rip.
You have to.
You've got to let him rip.
But he has to be willing to do it too.
Yeah. I think he'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
I think he's had a lot of years of get the fuck out of here, just like stored in him that he needs to let out.
I think he's had a lot of self-introspection.
But I wonder if the controversy back in the 90s that involved him maybe hurt his ego, and therefore he just hasn't been able to feel like, I'm the funniest guy in the room anymore. I'm the guy that you go to.
I think his ego hurt his ego. His ego hurt a lot. No, I mean, in all honesty, because he did take that tact of, I am the funniest man in the room, even though he sort of kind of might not have been in things like Golden Child, which wasn't awful, but it wasn't what we'd expected.
I've got a soft
as an
spot for that
audience.
movie.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, me too.
Me too. It's again, but it's not to the caliber of Beverly Hills Cop. And then when he started to get into Party All the Time, she wants to party all the time. He thought he could sing.
Yeah, he can't sing.
But he was doing good for other comics. Like Chris Rock is has this great cameo in Beverly Hills Cop 2. So did Gilbert Gottfried.
Yeah.
So he helped other people around him. It was just what's the line in Top Gun? His ego is writing checks his body can't cash.
Yeah.
Or maybe his body's writing checks his ego couldn't cash. And he started, like, when you start fighting with John Landis and you say things like that, eventually it's going to turn around, and that's how Beverly Hills Cop 3 comes about.
That is true.
He could have had a lot of self-introspection.
Still kind of got a little bit of a soft spot for Beverly Hills Cop 3.
Yeah,
I stuck it on recently on DVD, and I was like, is it as bad? And I'm like, it's kind of a shitty movie, but there's a lot in there that I still quite enjoy.
Yeah, I just, And again, Eddie Murphy, he's just funny.
Yeah.
And you wonder about sometimes comedians, what is it where they just stop being funny? I mean, I know he gets older. I get it. But it doesn't mean that you can't be funny anymore. Yeah, your material is going to change because you're older. You have a different view on life. But you're a smart comedian. You should be able to bring that out. People want that observational stuff. And again, I watch things like Delirious, and I'm just crying. It's very, let's call it blue.
Yeah.
It's definitely not politically correct today. But why can't we have that today? We sort of kind of.
But he may still hold on to those mentalities, and therefore his agents and publicity people are just like, you can't say that on stage and still be popular. This is going to create a shitstorm essentially if you say these types of things.
But I think
Dangerous and Raw, those are really blue, absolutely.
Absolutely.
But I think there is still an audience for that.
I think so, and
also I think
needed.
this potentially. I would watch that, but also don't forget that now, not looking just at this as a theatrical movie. I mean, we are living in a world, and Jeff and I have spoken about this many times before, where if you make a movie, it doesn't necessarily have to go into theaters. So if you want to make a movie where every other word is fuck, and it's an Eddie Murphy movie, and it's a Beverly Hills Cop movie, what's to say that you can't sell it to Netflix, make it a Netflix production, do it that way?
Right.
I think ideally they would look at it.
Yeah.
I think ideally they would look at it as being a theatrical movie, but do you know what? I think there is still an audience that wants this when it's done really, really well, and I think it possibly would work in theaters, and then you could release an unrelated cut or whatever. There is the possibility to do that. So
I say you sell a stand-up concert to Netflix.
Yeah.
Do if what you're saying that he's hitting the comedy club circuit again, and if he's building up material, put that on Netflix, or even better, get it on HBO, because that's where some of his specials were on HBO, and then make a movie. Like, to me, the theatrical experience of seeing it coming into, if Coming to America 2 goes direct to Netflix, I don't, not disparaging Netflix, but to me that says, meh, they're cheapening it. It's not going to look theatrical. But if you say, we're going to take our time, we're going to write this, we got a good comedic director. That's the other thing too. You have to know somebody who can direct comedy, and you put it out, and the premise is good. Like, you hit it on the head from New York, that the premise needs to be good. People have to buy into it. But also don't forget, there's a big year gap. It's 27, almost 30 years. And
who would make a sequel 27 years after the original movie?
I have no idea.
We could call it Beverly Hills Cop 2049. Why not?
That's a good one. Yeah, I mean, but you could make it work with the right marketing. And if it's the marketing that says, and God, if one reviewer comes out like you and come out and say Eddie Murphy's back, boom, done. That's all you need.
Yeah.
He needs to get the critics back on his side and say Eddie Murphy is funny again, and people are gonna go.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, really interesting viewpoints there. Nick, thank you so much for calling in. But as Eddie Murphy would say, get the fuck out of here. Thanks for your call. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Get the fuck out.
No, I cannot. It's seriously, I love that movie. Every single time I drive through Beverly Hills, and I just imagine that scene where there's the person wearing the Michael Jackson leather jacket, and I do a little Eddie Murphy laugh to myself. Get the fuck out of here. Seriously, I love Beverly Hills Cop.
I love it.
Okay, Demetri, thank you so much for co-hosting this week.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you for it. It's a privilege to sit in this chair. It really is. I never take it for granted. And again, my apologies to your audience, to you. I was late today, but still, it's a privilege to be here. I love talking movies.
Well, we're going to be having you back. We're going to be having you back again. Unfortunately, Jeff is going to be taking something of a sabbatical from the show. So for October, November, it's going to be me taking the main role in the show. And we're going to have a number of people guest hosting, and Demetri will be coming back again.
I hope so. And if your audience, more importantly, you ask me, I'm here because I love this. This is an amazing. You have a great audience.
We're very lucky, and a lot of people when they watch the show, they do. I mean, not everybody likes it. That's fine. But when people, they do genuinely enjoy the show, and they enjoy the debates that we have and the conversations, and it often does carry on in the comment section on YouTube afterwards. So
I noticed that too.
If you're watching the show, I mean, I will be in there, and I'll be talking and interacting with people on a regular basis over the week. So please do feel free to interact with that show.
It's a wonderful show.
But also subscribe and share it. I mean, if you like the show, do tell people that you enjoy the show and tell them why you enjoy the show. We're always looking to have new people watching, and we really enjoy your interaction. So.
Thank you. Yeah, and I enjoy being here. And again, if you really like movies and you want to focus on one movie, like this week we're doing American Made. Next week we'll be dissecting Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah.
We've got a ton of movies coming up. You get into the holiday season, and it's so much fun talking about movies. literally, when I was asked to do this, I was just floored and very honored. So when I was asked to come onto your show, it really is a pleasure and it's a privilege to be here. So thank you very much, and thank you to your audience for enduring me for the past hour.
Oh,
plus.
it's
Thank
been
you.
an absolute pleasure. I don't know if we're going to have a show next week. I'm going to be, top secret, I'm going to be in Portland doing something really, really cool.
Portland, Maine?
Portland, Oregon.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, doing something really, really cool. So I won't be on the show next week, but we will be returning the week after. I will
Will you be
again
able
be
to
in the
talk
hosting
about
team.
it then?
Well, I'll be able to tweet it out this week.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so I'll be tweeting about it. And it is also something that you can interact with, which is very, very nice. Awesome. So I will tell you more about that. You can find me on social media at Showbiz Simon, Instagram and Twitter. I also have a Facebook page. This is Simon Thompson. And as we are in the month of Halloween, you might want to go over to Forbes.com. I've created a list of the 13 highest grossing horror film franchises of all time at the US box office. I do this every year, and there's been quite a few shifts in there this year, actually.
There are, I remember I was working at Lionsgate when we were part of the, we brought in Saw. I have some great behind-the-scenes stuff about Saw, but there was a time where Saw was the highest-grossing horror movie franchise.
Well, if you want to know what the other 12 are in the top 13 as of this month, then please do check that out. Demetri, thank you so much. Where can we find you on social media?
You can find me at DMovies1701. So that's at DMovies1701.
Thank you so much indeed.
So,
thank you so much. This is Friday, October the 6th. It's my birthday.
Happy birthday. What are you doing? You going to the movies?
I'll tell you what I'm doing tonight. Actually, Guillermo del Toro liked my tweet. I'm going to the New Beverly tonight with some friends.
Yeah.
It's a double bill of Guillermo del Toro's Pan's Labyrinth and Crimson Peak. So I'm going to be sitting my ass down, gorging on hot dogs and popcorn, feeling old.
Those are two great movies.
I know, right?
I really like.
I like to think
both
that
those movies are
that
so good.
Guillermo and Quentin put those on for me, but they didn't.
Oh, that I heard that
Selfish.
they did. I heard they did because
Awkward.
they knew it was your birthday.
Yeah, I like to think. They're doing it every year now.
Well,
so
he's
think it's
baking you
thing.
a cake. That's what I heard.
I hope so. I hope so. I hear Tarantino's a really good baker. Guys, thank you so much.
baker.
This has been Movie Press. Tell the world that you like the show. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And see Marshall in theaters October the 13th, PG-13. Take care.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of its owners or principals.